This is the Page Publishing Book Club. How you doing? Good evening. How you doing over there, Rob? Good? You're looking good. Hey, it's daylight savings time here in the Northeast. Everybody set your clocks forward, right? Spring forward, yes. Okay, anyway. I'm your host, Alice Stockton Rossini. We're going to dig right in this week with an example of how life can be an incredible inspiration, depending, of course, on what kind of life you've had. No one has control over the cards they're dealt. And in the case of Antoinette Smith, well, she's writing a series of books about her life and how she managed to survive the unthinkable and move forward. The name of her book is The Real Antoinette Come Forth, Series Volume 4. Antoinette, tell us your story.
As early as a child, I started being molested at age 5, all the way till I got 11. And then at age 11, I entered into a relationship with a man that was 24 years old. So I got pregnant at 12, had my first child at 13. By the time I was 16, I had 3 children. Suffered physical, mental, emotional, drug abuse. He began to beat on me. And by the time I was 23, I had 5 children. Still going through the abusive relationship with my children's father.
Where was your family?
They was around, my mother and my father. We had quite a few altercations with the police and shootouts with the family because they were trying to protect me. At first, I didn't tell anybody, but then the beatings got so bad, I started to get hospitalized, where I was having to go to the hospital because he was beating me with brooms and things of that nature. And so when my family found out, my brothers and them began to have shootouts with them. My mother wound up actually shooting the car up the first time, but then about a year or so later, she actually shot my kid's father 2 times and his brother 1 time and wound up going to prison.
My God, where did you grow up?
I grew up in a village called Pembroke, Illinois, Hopkins Park, Illinois. It's 75 miles south of Chicago.
Okay.
It is deemed worse than a third world country because it's way below the poverty line.
How did you manage to get your life together?
Well, after years of drug abuse, in and out of jail, bound by drugs, I grew up in a faith-based Bible church. And so I've always believed in God. And it just got to the place that, Lord, if you don't help me, I can't be helped. And so I began to tell him I'm just tired of walking around getting high, whatever. So he calls me to go to jail in Chicago, Illinois, and I stayed 51 days. And when I got released from jail, I said, I'll do whatever you say. And so I wound up having to leave Illinois, which I was a fugitive for a number of years. About 11 to 12 years, I was a fugitive on the run.
What did you go to jail for?
Stealing. I was on probation in 2 different counties in Illinois, and I violated my probation because they had court ordered me to go to rehabilitation center, but I did not go. So therefore, a warrant was put out for my arrest. Actually, I was wanted in 5 counties in Illinois when I left.
Where did you go?
I went to the state of Minnesota, Minneapolis, Minnesota for 8 days because I had lived there previously, and I went there to try to pretty much detox from the drugs before I moved to Mississippi, because Mississippi is like another world from what I'm used to. And so I wound up coming to Mississippi, western Mississippi, where my auntie was still living and my father was from, and where I had spent my Christmases and summers at as a child. So I wound up coming down here, and the Lord made a way for my tickets because I didn't have any money because I had drugged up all my money. And the state of Minnesota paid for me and 3 of my children bus tickets to get to Mississippi. And when I got here, I began the process of detoxification. And it was pretty much, I had to depend on the Lord, like, help me, because I was still hooked on heroin. I was still hooked on cocaine. I had a lot of major drugs in my system. And then I was coming to a place that didn't have any of those drugs. Well, I didn't know of them, and then I didn't have any money anyway. And that's how I started my detoxification. I've been in Mississippi right now. It'll be 14 years. Brookhaven, Mississippi.
What do you do for a living?
I now own my own company. I own an in-home care service called Gentle Touch In-Home Care, which I named after my father. My father's name was Gentle, because he pretty much was the one that started me taking care of people. I started taking care of my grandmothers, bathing them, combing their hair. So I got blessed with Gentle Touch at age 38. I started in 2014. So in June, Gentle Touch will be 3 years old. I provide care for the entire state of Mississippi and the entire state of Louisiana. I'm the founder of an empowerment ministry where I work with the youth from age 5 to 15, teaching them cooking skills, cleaning skills, helping them to discover their gifts and talents, helping them to evoke in their minds and to say, what is it I want to do when I get older? So I help them to learn Bible scriptures along with their parents. And I started that ministry to promote a relationship between the parent and the child through the Word of God, because the parents have got to be involved with them to help them, because they can't find these answers on their own. And as a reward for the children, if they say so many Bible scriptures or complete their Bible package, I take them on field trips. I teach them to serve in the community. We pass out care packages like household supplies, washing powder, bleach, tissue, paper towels to widows, to cancer patients, to the sick and the shut in, to single parents. And then they also get to help set up for my book signings. I also teach Intro to Workforce, Intro to Business Management seminars. I have twice a year at different locations, mainly at different churches, to teach people to prepare job resumes, how to start their own companies, teach them about advertisement. And so the children gets to help me with that as well.
Antoinette, you really are amazing. I'm telling you. Let me just add, she went to alternative school, night school, got her GED, went to community college, got certified as a nursing assistant. All of her children are respectable citizens with decent jobs who lived through all of Antoinette's trials and tribulations. They were never put in foster care. And I tell you, this woman is a perfect example of how people can and do turn their lives around in the face of insurmountable odds. Thank you so much, Antoinette. Our next author, Shannon Levitt, colors basically to relieve stress, and she's got a lot of stress in her life. And she started thinking that maybe her fun color book called Shenanigans, Shenanigans, could help others the way it's helped her. Shenanigans?
Well, a lot of people just say, shenanigans, like messing around. And I was like, no, my name is Shannon, and I'm always grinning, so it's Shenanigans.
And obviously you love to color.
It's just a big stress reliever. My whole house and my whole environment, it's just one big zoo. I'm constantly busy, constantly running around. When I get a minute to sit down and color, it's relaxing. Everything around me just kind of goes away. All the stress and everything else.
What makes your life crazy? Kids? Job?
Everything. I work in a really loud job. My house is loud. I have 3 kids, 3 dogs, and a cat. Been married 17 years, and we live in this tiny, tiny little trailer. And, it's just everything compacted all into one little area. It's just crazy.
What inspired this coloring book?
My kids. I'm over struggling. I'm over it. I love my kids, and I want to do the best for my kids, and I want to do the best for all the other kids out there. So, and all the parents as well. I want to teach them that it's okay to just take that moment, just take a breath and relax for a minute, because if you're not relaxed, your kids aren't okay. So I want my kids to be okay. I want to be okay. I love it. It's amazing. So basically, I'm doing it all for my family because I'm sick and tired of struggling, and I'm doing everything in my power to make my family okay.
How old are your kids?
My oldest boy is 16. My middle boy is 13, and my daughter is 9.
Okay. And what do you do at your loud job?
I am a server. So I'm constantly hearing dishes breaking, kids screaming, people yelling, food's flying. Yeah, I love it.
When we look at your coloring book, what are we coloring?
It's just a bunch of abstract. That's what's in my head. It's all shapes. There's some flowers in there. I love little swirlies. So it's just pretty. It's relaxing. It's for a boy and a girl, either one. It's not realistic stuff. There's no shading. It's just all abstract and fun. So you can, frame it, color it, frame it, do whatever you want with it.
Well, the question I have to ask, there's a lot of coloring books out there. What sets yours apart?
Mine's completely different, especially the cover. Okay, you look at that cover, and it's like the only thing that's on the inside is the little swirlies that's on the front. Okay, the cover, I worked with a 16-year-old boy. He started out as a dishwasher, and he wasn't okay. He wasn't. He grew up with a really, really hard life, and he had a little brother to take care of. And being the mom that I am, I try to take care of those boys. I try to give them a mother figure, and I want to make him okay too. So I asked him if he would design my cover page for me, and I didn't know if he could draw. I wanted to give him something inspiring to do. I wanted to inspire him and take his stress away as well. So I, told him, hey, I will put whatever you draw on my cover. And he did. He came back with that, and it was beautiful. So I wanted to, change his future at the same time as I'm changing my kids. So mine's different because you can look at it and be like, what the heck? What the heck is that? Let's look inside that. I don't see any coloring books that are like that at all. Mine comes straight from the heart, and straight from my brain, and hopefully, this changes his heart as well and his future. I'm doing it for him, and the reaction on his face when I put it on the cover and it got published, it was like a big change in his eyes. It's kind of like I was saving him.
Nothing better than that, Shannon, Maybe you can get your customers to start coloring while you're waiting on them. Maybe. I don't know. Check it out. Winters are rough in northern Michigan, and good thing. They, in part, inspired Linda Rockwell Dahlman to write her book entitled The Abandoned Daughter. This is a story of her stepmother that started out as just a little booklet for the family archives, and then what happened?
I come across so much information, exciting information, stuff I didn't want to leave out, that I realized it would take more than a booklet, that it would take a series. So I started with my stepmother, because she was born 7 years earlier than my mother. The families didn't get along at all. And the main characters are Clarence and Addie. They're the children of the feuding families. So when they got married, it did nothing to calm it. If anything, it threw fire on the flames of this feud. And then they had 4 children in this atmosphere. And one day they made a choice to leave their 9-month-old daughter with his parents, who were religious, God-fearing folks, and take their other 3 children and leave the state. His parents were religious, and they considered her parents heathens, and her parents were live life to the fullest, hardworking, free spirits, and they considered his family hypocrites. So in this atmosphere, they leave their child with the religious parents.
But why? Why leave one and take the rest?
That's what the story is about, and that's what you have to read the book to find out.
Okay. Did they have a good reason?
Yes.
And it's real. It's true.
And it takes place between 1919 and 1927, the era of the women's suffrage, prohibition, and there were a lot of race riots going on. So there was a lot of turmoil going on in the country as well. And my stepmother was the little abandoned girl caught in the middle.
This must have been so exciting as you uncovered this information.
It was. It was fascinating, and that's when I came to the conclusion it wouldn't do either of the ladies justice if I did try to just fill it all into one book, And so I have a book signing, and I've only have one so far lined up.
That's great. That's a start. Did you do it yourself?
Yeah. Actually, I kind of fell into it. I called them to see if they used the same catalog as Page Publishing. They did, and they asked me, why do you want to know, and tell me about your book, and would you be willing to do this event? And so just like that. And I'm going to be ready to do whatever they expect of me, I guess. I went to workshops during this time and went to some writers' conferences, but that was my experience.
How did those workshops work out for you?
Well, I learned a lot. When I thought my book was ready to be published, I went to one and asked the powers that be what I had to do next. What do I need to do to publish my book? And they told me no publisher would even look at my work unless I had a platform. So I was kind of stuck there since I didn't have a platform. And I put my book on the shelf and went about attempting to build a platform. And I sent some articles into a couple of Christian magazines. And
Well, when you went to the workshops, did they teach you how to organize your thoughts and organize your information? And
yes. And they had, the editors there, the agents, the publishers, and I found that pretty exciting. So I learned a lot. I would go and stay for like 3 to 5 days.
So are you going to keep writing?
Oh, yes, I have the next one. The next book will be my mother's story. And that's the rough draft is done.
Nice, Linda. This is another great example of something you, the frustrated author, could be doing to move forward, right? Writers' workshops and picking a topic really close to home. Okay, we got to take a quick break. When we come back, imagine seeing a statue and it's you. Don't go anywhere.
Attention all authors. Page Publishing is looking for authors. Have you written a book and want to get it published? Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, Apple iTunes, and other outlets. They handle all aspects of the publishing process for you. Printing, cover art, publicity, copyright, and editing. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. That's 800-204-6099 for your free author submission kit.
Hey, thanks for coming back to the Page Publishing Book Club. I'm your host, Alice Stockton Rossini. Rob Barrett is my engineer. Christina Aiken wrote The Adventures of Malix. And as soon as I read about this wee lamb who loves to play in the rolling hills of Scotland, I thought, she's been to the Highlands.
My husband's Scottish, and it was a trip visiting future in-laws in the Highlands of Scotland in the spring with frolicking lambs everywhere. And that's where it started about 5 or 6 years ago. And it was a story that played out verbally for years and years. And this past year, made a move up to Northern California from Los Angeles with my twin boys and Scottish husband, and took some time off to be with the kids and really focus on an artistic side of myself, and went, hey, this book needs to be written.
Well, what was the story that was told over and over?
These family of lambs frolicking in the Highlands of Scotland, and, what adventures they would have. And it's going to be a series. I'm already on book 2. The second book being a trip from Scotland to San Francisco and the adventures all over the different spots in San Francisco that a family could have.
Your kids must love this.
Yes. They now have it in printed form, and we read it almost every night. They're now 4.5, and now they're inspiring adventures that they want to take. So constantly bringing up more and more stories about adventures. And we recently took another family trip to San Francisco, and, the adventures of going over the Golden Gate Bridge and going through the tunnels and down the crookedest street, Lombard Street.
Street, right. But you know what? It's amazing. You said you were trying to let the creative side of you open up. It's funny how kids can help you do that.
Oh, yes. And it's like you're reliving your childhood through them, right? And just they have everything so fun and exciting at this young of age because it's something they've done for the first time, and you get excited with them.
All right. So now you have a whole series planned, and you can let the kids, whatever it is you do with the kids, kind of dictate what's going to happen next.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is the whole plan for it. A love for travel with my young, I have twin boys.
So this is what you're going to do.
I'm a mom and I'm a writer, and I still have my human resources consulting business on the side as well.
How inspiring is that?
Yeah, I'm one that likes to juggle it all, and I seem to do better in both aspects when I have a creative side and an analytical side going on at the same time, and of course a mom side, and keeping the balance.
Now, do you go into their schools and say, hey, I wrote this book, you should buy it? Or you go into the library? Are you doing readings, anything like that?
I'm just starting to do the marketing side of it. So, yeah, I've just recently brought copies to their preschool, and I'm planning to do a reading there. And that's the next thing on my list, is to go to local libraries and local bookstores and be promoting the book.
Good enough, Christina. All you need are some wee lambs. Get some of those wee lambs to pass out. Wouldn't that be cute? Michael James Ely is a retired senior surfer, and he lives right across from the beach in California. That's where he was inspired to write Little Pirates of Seaport Village. Michael.
It's a true story about when I was growing up in San Pedro, California in 1963. And we were just little alley rats, just some kids that, this was back in a time before there was any supervision for kids. We lived in a little bubble, and we never worried about war or crime or anything. It was pretty much a wonderful time. Things happened in the book that, you don't never really expect to happen. Things that are, make you wonder. We had a lot of freedom, and I think that carried over into adulthood. That's why we're so unhappy with how things are going today. I was selling newspapers down on the street, and one of the people that had a little shop there, the man come out and asked me, "Can I take your pictures?" I go, "Well, I guess," and so he took some pictures of me, said it was for some project that the Chamber of Commerce was working on, which didn't mean a lot to a kid. But he gave me a picture, and so I rode home and showed my mom, And like a year later, we happened to be on the same old route, and as we're cruising around town, we discover a new park. And so we're looking at the new park and the new laid grass and the fresh asphalt sidewalk. And as we're following it around, we come to a bronze statue of me selling newspapers.
No.
Yeah. We couldn't believe it. I mean, could this be real, But yeah, it was real. And I haven't been back. It's been 30 years since I was back there, so I don't know if it's still there or not.
That's such a cool story.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, it was one of those where you left us scratching our heads. The whole book is just basically arriving at that there's stuff that happens in your life that you don't never plan on, and it might be better than you thought.
What made you decide to write this now?
I wrote it a long time ago when I was stuck up in the mountains in the snow, and I had nothing else to do, so I started writing some silly stories. Every once in a while I get inspired, and then I have to break out the typewriter and blaze away.
You had this hanging around and you just finally decided to get it published?
It turns out it's a lot harder than you thought. I mean, I thought that you could just, like you see in the movies or reading the books, you make the manuscript and you send it to the publisher and then you're done. But it turned out it was a lot tougher than that, and it took a lot longer. And it was amazing finally to get it done. And my friends had told me that I'd showed the manuscript to before. They told me, "Hey, this is pretty cool. You really ought to get it published." Well, it's a lot harder to get it published than you'd think. And so it was quite a struggle to get it done. And now my friends really like it. And my mom called me up the other day, and she was so happy talking about it. I hadn't heard her. She was bubbling. It was real cute.
Hey, never too old to make your mom happy, right? Thanks, Mike. Let's take a trip now to Middle Earth with Edward Shahan, who wrote a science fiction novel entitled City of Secrets from Mirtha. Okay, Terran Orme is your main character, and he's stuck in the middle of the planet for a year. So why don't we start there? How did he wind up there?
He just finished some experiments with a wet version of the Philosopher's Stone, a real science that has been recently rediscovered just last century. And when he walks into his place of work, two guys show up imitating policemen. They're cyborgs. They're working for a place called Cyberchild. It's a secret experimental place. They say they want to talk with him concerning a hack that he and his friends did on Cyberchild, a secret organization that produces these cyborgs. He runs into a sewer. He's being chased by them, and he is backing up back against the wall, in which he falls into a secret room, and he discovers a elevator that goes down 2 miles under the surface of the earth. And it is there he discovers what is called the Spidora. They're a half human and half spider, Margellin and Coreg. He is to be the future queen of Remertha. The American Nazi Winston Stoddard, he is in robotic form. He is permanently connected to the genetic laboratory that's down in there in his sacred zone. And he is a geneticist, eugenist from before World War II. And he creates a clone of Tarrant in female form. The clone is sort of a nebulous thing that grows within the story until she becomes an actual girl. Stoddard takes his own personal DNA in order to save his clone from death, the threat of death. That he has to go back and, as a punishment, because he let go a captive that he had in his laboratory. Tarrant has to, in punishment to save his daughter's life, must go and get Sauroan DNA, because he let the Sauroan that Stoddard had captured go. Much of the book is done with real science and technology, and I'd hope that someone would learn that we can get along together without having to have war or not having to kill, just to have an adventure. It's also the origin story of a superhero. He is a metahuman. With his Philosopher's Stone manufacture, he becomes a metahuman. Although he has to, when it runs down, he has to re-energize.
Okay, Edward, I'm telling you, my head is spinning. Sounds like the basis for one heck of a superhero. Looking forward to that sequel. And now, Rob, I'm looking forward to daylight savings time. Why? Because it means we are that much closer to summer, and I love summer. Honestly, I wish I could say the same for daylight savings time. Why don't they just scrap it all together? I don't get it. Anyway, that's another story. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. We'll be back next week, but you can always go to 710WOR.iHeart.com and download the show whenever you want after it airs here on 710 WOR at midnight. Come on back next week for another edition of the Page Publishing Book Club. Set your clocks forward and have a great weekend.